During the ending scene of The Flash Season 8 Episode 19, we all witnessed one of the craziest moments on the show, the death of Iris West. This of course was done through Negative Thawne pulling Iris from 2049 in front of himself in 2022, resulting to Iris being struck by the lightning Barry directed towards the negative forces. As Iris got hit by the strands of orange lightning, Barry's face turns pale as he couldn't believe what has happened. Thawne made Barry kill his wife, eventually making Iris collapse to the ground motionless. As Barry approached his wife to check on her, we see the motionless body dissipate in green temporal particles transferring to eobard thawne and eventually resulting to the rise of eobard with his speed back. But what exactly does this all mean? How will Iris come back if she does come back? And will Iris come back? Let's talk about it. Yo, what is going on guys, Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 8, and this will be my theory video talking about what's going on with Iris and this whole reverse Flash thing, and how I think Iris could come back. So during the end of episode 19, as I said, we all saw Iris's death, and of course we saw her disappearing into pure temporal energy once she revealed that Thawne's sacrifice was not actually Thawne, but it was actually Iris herself. And it was Iris's death which essentially resulted to the emergence of the reverse flash due to those pure still force particles. Now of course we found out that this was Thawne's destiny all along. This needed to happen for the negative forces to prevail and for Thawne to get his speed back. Now whether he became the avatar of the negative speed force or has some bits of this negative still force due to Iris's time sickness and her disappearing into temporal particles and of course merging with Thawne, we don't know about that. I would presume he has some of the still force due to Iris's temporal particles going into him, but we don't know for sure. But we do of course know that he definitely got his speed back, or else why would he be wearing a reverse flash costume? And also his eyes started glowing, and of course he did have red lightning going around all over him. Now although we saw Iris die in this episode, there is no way she's dead. There is no way the show did this. Eric Wallace did say that Iris's time sickness will have a happy conclusion. So will West Allen pretty much. Meaning there is definitely something planned for Iris to come back. And there are a couple of theories we could talk about in regards to how Iris could come back. Now of course the first theory is that the original forces come back, which of course helps the real Thawne save Iris from the temporal abnormality she's in right now. This would make sense because it's clear that Negative Thawne planned for all of this to happen for eobard thawne to rise up and fulfill his destiny. So it only makes sense if Thawne knows how to essentially reverse this, since after all his powers are also temporal related, just like the negative still force. But the way he would be able to do this is of course through weakening the negative still force, because we as of now know that the negative forces took dominance over their positive counterparts. So the only way to defeat them is to essentially weaken them, which I'm sure we will be seeing in this episode. Now from the trailer for the finale, we did have this one shot with all of the Flash family wearing this tachyon device. Now this is a very interesting tachyon device because this is the exact same one Barry used in Season 7 Episode 9, which was to absorb all the force particles from that explosion created when Barry tried to get his speed back, and eventually attempt to erase them from existence. So maybe this device has been reverse engineered to potentially absorb negative force particles, which of course would help the positive counterparts grow stronger and weaken the negative counterparts, and then eventually the negative still force dies, and then of course the original Thawne takes dominance, and then the original Thawne will be able to save Iris from whichever situation she's in. That is of course very possible. Now of course another possibility, and this is the one that so many people have been predicting, is that it's got to do with Joe and the Time Stone. Now we all know that Joe has received something in episode 5 from Damien Dark, which is called the Time Stone. And of course, we've seen this time stone a couple of times in the season, most specifically in episode 4, where of course Barry used the time stone to restore the timeline and restore everything that's changed from Reverse Flashpoint. We of course had Damien Dark using it a couple of times, but also during episode 5, we had Damien Dark swapping places with Nora Dark, who's supposed to be erased from existence in this timeline. And we of course had Damien Dark giving this stone to Joe, so we all assumed that there would be some sort of like an explanation or like a continuation from this storyline. And maybe it's going to play out in the finale where Joe will swap places with Iris. Now we know that the time stone does have the ability to do this, as we saw in episode 5, where Damien Dark of course swapped places with Nora Dark, so it is definitely capable of doing something like that. So that is something we could potentially see as well. Now this could also explain why Joe will only be around for 5 episodes in The Flash season 9. So for those who don't know, Jesse L. Martin will not be a series regular anymore going into The Flash season 9. He will be a recurring character, and it's only been mentioned that he will be around for 5 episodes only. So this could be a reasonable explanation to essentially get rid of Joe, I would say, and of course swap places with Iris. I think that would make a lot of sense in my opinion. And it is possible, I think we could definitely see them going down this route and Joe using the time stone, because they do eventually need to use it in some way, because we know that it's going to have some sort of significance, and this might be it. And if they do that, that would actually be a pretty interesting storyline. Now, we do also know that there's supposed to be like a surprise cameo happening during the Flash season 8 finale. Now, this could also link to how Iris can come back. And this could be from one of the predicted cameos that could be the possibility, and that is of course Oliver Queen as the Spectre. We could potentially have him being the main cameo of the Flash season 8 finale, and then he could be the one bringing Iris back. Like, does this even need to be explained? We had the Spectre literally creating a whole entire universe and bringing all these dead characters back. He could surely bring Iris back. And of course, if Oliver Queen is the cameo, that could definitely be the way that they could go for this. We did of course have Oliver Queen appearing in the Earth Prime crossover comic, so maybe we could have somewhat of a continuation from that going into the Flash season 8, where we do see Oliver Queen appearing in the finale and of course bringing Iris back. The only complaint I would have with this is that we would be having an interaction with Oliver Queen and Iris instead of the one which everyone would want to see, which is Oliver Queen and Barry. Although I wouldn't really mind that. Of course, fans would be mad that Oliver would essentially be interacting with the wrong person, because let's be honest, if we're having Oliver Queen, everyone would want to see that bromance between Oliver and Barry. Again, if Oliver Queen's coming back, we need that to happen. So I feel like it could disappoint fans if we do have an interaction between Oliver and Iris, but not Oliver Queen and Barry. So that would be my only issue with Oliver Queen appearing, although it would just be really, really sick, don't get me wrong. I don't know if this is the way people would want to see it, so that's why I'm not too convinced about this. But of course, if we do see Oliver Queen appearing in this episode, he's more than capable in bringing someone back to life, so maybe he could bring Iris back. But then this would also be another issue, because you could argue, okay, then why doesn't Oliver Queen bring others back? Why doesn't he bring Frost back? Why doesn't he bring Nora and Henry Allen back? Those need to be taken into consideration as well. So it is possible, but it could cause a couple of issues in my opinion. Now, the final theory is that although Iris could come back temporarily, maybe it would be that she just won't be saved from this time sickness. Maybe it will just be an ongoing thing and she'll be forced to essentially travel across these timelines. And this could somewhat make sense, considering that this would give Candice Patton more time to take breaks, which we know is the main reason why she wasn't there for episodes 15 to 18 in the first place, is because Candice Patton took a long hiatus between those episodes, and she did the same thing with season 7 as well. She wasn't there for episode 15, 16 and most of 17. So she's most likely going to do this for season 9. So maybe there is a possibility that yes, although Iris will come back to life and we will get somewhat of a West Allen reunion, Iris will still be trapped in this time sickness and she'll just be forced to, like, you know, essentially do the same thing, travel across these timelines. and this would of course give Candace more of that time for her to take a break, but also appear when she's needed to. That could of course be what's going to happen. The only issue with that, once again, is that it would trigger lots of fans. But again, like, it could potentially happen. That is of course a high possibility. But personally, in my opinion, I think that it's going to be through like the forces and all of that. I think that makes the most sense. It could be through defeating Eobard or something like that as well, but I'm not entirely sure. We're a couple of days away from the finale, so I guess we will have to wait and see. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below if you guys have any other theories or ideas in regards to how Iris could come back. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of this as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.